जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय श्री श्री राधा माधवाष्ट सखी की जय, श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। So we are reading from chapter 18, text 29. Let me share my screen so that we all can recite the verse. Geeta Malamataji, can you see the screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, yeah.
बुद्धेर्भेदं धृतेश्चैव
बुद्धिर्भेदं धृतेश्चैव
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु।
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु।
रोच्यमानम् अशेषेण
प्रोच्यमानम् अशेषेण
पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय।
पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय।
Please recite.
बुद्धिर्भेदं धृतेश्चैव
बुद्धिर्भेदं
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु।
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु।
प्रोच्यमानामशेषेण पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय।
पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय।
बुद्धिर्भेदं दृष्टश्चैव
बुद्धिर्भेदं धृतेश्चैव
गुणातस्त्रिविधं शृणु।
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु।
प्रोच्यमानम् अशेषेण
प्रोच्यमानमशेषेण
पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय।
पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय।
बुद्धिर्भेदं धृतश्चैव
बुद्धिर्भेदं धृतेश्चैव
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु।
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु।
प्रोच्यमानम् अशेषेण
प्रोच्यमानम् अशेषेण
पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय।
पृथक्त्वेन धनञ्जय। बुद्धिर्भेदं धृतश्चैव
बुद्धिर्वेदं
धृतिश्चैव
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु
गुणतस्त्रिविधं शृणु
प्रोच्यमानम् अशेषेण
प्रोच्यमानमशेषेण
दृढत्वेन धनञ्जय
पृथक्त्वेन
पृथक्त्वेन
धनञ्जय
धनञ्जय
बुद्धे
बुद्धि
of
Buddhe.
intelligence,
of intelligence.
Intelligence.
bhedam,
Vedam,
Vedam.
the differences,
the differences.
The difference.
dhritehe,
Ritehe,
steadiness,
of steadiness.
cha,
Cha,
also,
also
also.
eva,
eva
Eva,
certainly,
certainly.
gunataha,
Gunataha,
by the modes of material nature,
by the modes of material nature.
trividham,
Trividham,
Trividham
of three kinds,
of
of
three
three
kinds.
kinds.
shrunu,
Shrunu,
just here,
just here.
prochyamanam,
Prochyamanam,
as described by me,
as described by me.
asheshena,
Asheshena,
in detail,
in detail.
Detail.
prithaktvena,
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 differently,
differently.
dhananjaya,
Dhananjaya,
O winner of wealth.
O winner of wealth.
wealth.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. O winner of wealth, now please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of material nature. Now, after explaining knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower in three different divisions according to the modes of material nature, the Lord is explaining the intelligence and determination of the worker in the same way. Because these verses are so short, we'll read the next three also, and then we'll discuss. So, Geetamala Mataji, can you read this verse and translation? Just verse and translation.
The next verse.
Yeah, I have it on the screen, 1830.
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च कार्याकार्ये भयाभये बन्धं मोक्षं च या वेत्ति बुद्धि सा पार्थ सात्विकी. And then the translation also.
Yes.
O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness.
Okay. Any volunteers for the next verse?
Dharmam adharmam cha karyam chakaram yavacha ayatavat prajanti buddhi shapartha rajashi. O son of Partha, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion.
Or verse, if someone can read.
Adharmam dharmam iti ya manyate tamashavrita sarvarthan viparsitamscha buddhihi sapartha tamashi. Translation: that understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and it strives always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance.
So, in these verses, Krishna is describing to Arjuna how understanding can be in three different modes. So, the first mode that he describes is the understanding in the mode of goodness. So, one who knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. karya and akarya together, they know like 1/3 of the understanding in the mode of goodness. There are 3 points that he mentioned. And the first point is the person whose understanding is in the mode of goodness, he knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. So he describes in Bhagavad Gita 16:24 also about this karya and akarya. The verse says, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vyavastitau Jnatva Shastra Vidhanuktam Karma Kartumiharhasi. So one should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulation of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So knowing what to be done, what not to be done should come from the scriptures. It is not our own intelligence evolved and then we figure out what should be done at all times. The only way one can know what should be done is through the scriptures. Can anyone say why? Can anyone guess why it should be only through the scriptures?
Because they're coming from the perfect source.
Yes, yes. So that's exactly why we cannot just speculate on what is good, what is not good, because we are all prone to the 4 defects. All the human beings, they are prone to 4 defects. I'm sure most of you know, so I'll just ask the audience if any of them wants to pitch in to say what are the 4 defects of human beings.
Cheating,
Cheating.
lies,
Pardon me?
lies.
Yeah, that comes under cheating,
Oh,
Mataji.
okay.
They commit mistakes.
Yes, mistakes, cheating.
Mistake.
Aham.
Aham. Yeah, that comes under one thing that is not it hasn't been told yet. It comes under a broad category that we all are under.
Imperfect senses.
Imperfect senses is one of them.
We
Yes.
are put into illusion.
Yes, exactly, Mataji. Yeah. So we all are prone to these 4 defects. We commit mistakes, we are under illusion, and we have imperfect senses, and we have cheating propensity. Yeah, our senses don't function perfectly at all times. We may be able to see properly when there is good light, but when there is no good light, then we can't see properly. And similarly, every sense has its own limitations. And then we have been put under illusion. We think we may see something, but we may think something else. If we see a rope like far away, then we may think it's a snake. So that's illusion. And then imperfect senses, illusion, mistakes. Sometimes we know what is truth, but because of certain conditions we may commit mistakes. Imperfect senses, illusion, mistakes, and we are all under cheating. Yeah, we know what is true. We can see everything. We can process the information, but still, because the truth is not what we like, we may cheat. So these are the imperfections that all the human beings are prone to. That's why we cannot decide what is good, what is not good, what is right, what is not right. So that's why we need to take shelter of the scriptures to understand what is right and what is not right. And the result of that is we will be gradually elevated. So if someone is saying that they are following the scriptures, the symptom of that is they'll make progress. And the ultimate result is will know Krishna. As he says, Veda ischa sarvair ahameva vedya. By following all the Vedas, the ultimate result should be knowing me. So if someone doesn't come to that conclusion, that means they're not following the regulations properly. That means they don't know what to do, what not to do. And the second thing is they know what is to be feared and what is not to be feared. Bhaya and Abhaya. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary, he says, fear is caused by samsara. And fearlessness is caused by freedom from samsara. So there are so many things that people fear. For example, when Prahlad Maharaj was being harassed by his father Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad didn't fear death. He didn't fear dying. And ultimately, Narsingadev comes to protect him, to save him from his father. And Narsingadev kills his father in a very ghastly way, like he uses his nails to tear his stomach apart, and he pulls out his intestines and all that. So when someone sees that, they'll be very fearful. When Narsingadev was like that, even demigods were afraid to go to Narsingadev. But then Prahlad Maharaj says, oh my Lord, I'm not afraid of your ferocious mouth and tongue. Your eyes are bright like sun, and I'm not even afraid of your frowning eyebrows. I don't fear your sharp teeth. I don't fear your garland of intestines. I don't fear the mane that is soaked with blood. I don't fear all those things. So I'm very much afraid of only this condition of life in the material world. When will that moment come when you'll call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the ultimate goal for liberation? So this is what he fears, and he's a Mahajana, so we have to follow in the footsteps of Mahajanas, and that they are the living examples of scriptures. So he kind of gives this example of what we need to fear and what we should not fear. So another verse Prabhupada quotes very often. He quotes this verse from Canto 11, chapter 2, 37. Bhayam dvitiyabhiniveshata syat ishad apetasya viparyayo smriti tanmayayato buddha abhajitam bhaktyaikkayesham gurudevatatma. So fear arises when we misidentify ourselves with the material body because of absorption in the illusory energy. So when we turn away from the Supreme Lord, we forget our position as the servant of the Lord. So this is the bewildering and fearful condition. And this is the result of illusion. This is the result of Maya. So we should always, an intelligent person should always engage in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of spiritual master. So this is the way to be fearless. The only way if there is fear, that means we are misidentifying ourselves. Otherwise, there is no fear. We read all the time that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. And children have this song, I know I'm not this body, I am a spirit soul. So they learn it when they're little. But it's very hard to not identify with the body. Like this coronavirus, if we hear somebody got coronavirus in our own circle, it's very fearful, because fear of losing this body. That's the fear we have, because we don't think that we are not this body. We think that we are this body. That's why we are fearful. And there is one very nice story of King Chitraketu. He was traveling once, and then he sees Lord Shiva and Parvati. They are in the assembly of sages. And Lord Shiva, he seats Parvati on his lap always. Then when Chitraketu sees that, he laughs at it. There are so many elevated devotees sitting here, and then Lord Shiva himself, he is very elevated, but he has Mother Parvati on his lap. So he laughs, and then Parvati sees that, and she wasn't very happy with that. So she curses him to become a demon in the next life. King Chitraketu will become Vritrasura in his next life. But Chitraketu, he accepts without any retaliation. He doesn't feel bad. He just says that, Mother, whatever is my destiny, I have to suffer. According to my karma, I have to suffer. And in this material world, good things come and bad things come. We have to go through them. And after he accepts without any remorse, Parvati was very surprised. She was astonished and she asks Lord Shiva, how is it possible that he wasn't even sad? Then Lord Shiva quotes this nice verse. Narayana parasarve nakutaschana bhibhyati swargapavarga narakeshu apitulyartha darshinaha. Means for a devotee of the Lord, a devotee of Narayana, any place, whether it is Swarga or liberated condition or Naraka, they see it as equally. Narayana Parasarve, na kutaschana bhibhyati. They are not afraid of any place. Swargapa Varka Narakesha Pitulyartha Darshina. Because their only concern is the pleasure of the Lord. They don't mind even going to Naraka if that's the desire of the Lord. They don't have any separate desire other than the desire of the Lord. That's why they just take whatever comes. So this is also one example of fearlessness. Chitraketu was also fearless. And the third thing that a person in the mode of goodness, whose understanding is in the mode of goodness, should know is what is binding and what is liberating, bandham and moksham. So one should know what is binding. So when we follow dharma according to the Shastra, like we discussed previously for the other two items, then we will not be bound. Then all our activities will be liberating, not binding. And also explicitly, it is mentioned that when the senses are controlled, then we are not bound. When the senses are not controlled, then we are bound. So that this point comes up when Navayogendras, they are instructing Maharaja Nimi. The verse says, Anvikshetatmano bandham moksham cha jnana nishtaya bandha indriya vikshepo mokshesham samyamaha. By steady knowledge, a sage should clearly ascertain the nature of the soul's bondage and liberation. Bondage occurs when the senses are deviated to sense gratification, and complete control of the senses constitutes liberation. So, this is also a stepping stone to have proper understanding. This is a requirement. So, if you see a person whose senses are not controlled, that means his understanding is not yet in the mode of goodness. So, only a person who has complete control over his senses, completely avoiding the activities which may cause us bondage, which are not useful for Krishna consciousness. Ultimately, that's what we need to get at. Whatever we do should be useful for Krishna consciousness, should be useful for our own advancement, for the advancement of the mission, for the pleasure of the Lord. Otherwise, any other activity will definitely result in bondage. So this is about understanding in the mode of goodness. And the next verse talks about understanding in the mode of passion. So in that verse, it says that one cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion in passion. And they also cannot distinguish between what action to be done and what action not to be done. And in the mode of ignorance, they consider irreligion as religion and religion as irreligion. And they always strive in the wrong direction. So anyone has any example for mode of passion or mode of ignorance? Considering irreligion to be religion?
Like following Sai Baba.
Yes, yes. So calling somebody as the Supreme Lord is not supposed to be a religion, who's not the Supreme Lord. And that's also one example. And the classic example of 9/11, all these people killing thousands of people in the name of religion. No religion in their scriptures will say, no authentic religion will say, you go and kill so many people, and that is religion. It's actually religion, it's actually adharma. But people take it as religion and they strive in wrong direction in mode of ignorance. So basically, in the mode of goodness, the intelligence, buddhi is the word used here for understanding. Buddhi can also mean intelligence. So, in the mode of goodness, the intelligence is proper, everything is clear. But in the mode of passion, there is a confusion. Sometimes you cannot distinguish between what is right and what is not right, and what is religion and what is irreligion. Whereas in ignorance, it's the opposite. So in goodness, everything is clear. In passion, there is some confusion. In ignorance, there is no confusion. The wrong thing is the right thing. That's what they think. So these are the different categories of intelligence. So this is the reason why the Brahmanas are required in the society, because they are in the mode of goodness. They have complete clarity on what needs to be done, what should be avoided, and what is fearful, what is not to be feared. So all these things, they can guide the rest of the society, because the rest of the society does not have that capability. So buddhi is the word used here, and there are many places Prabhupada uses this word. Krishna uses in Bhagavad Gita the word buddhi, and also in Srimad Bhagavatam it's used many times. And when Lord Kapila, when he is instructing his mother Devahuti in the transcendental science, he defines what buddhi means. He gives a proper definition of what the characteristics of intelligence are. So there are 5 characteristics of intelligence: doubt, misapprehension, correct apprehension, memory, and sleep. These are the 5 distinct characteristics of intelligence. So doubt is one of the first and important functions of intelligence. So if someone accepts whatever you say, if blindly they accept, that means they are not intelligent. We say they are very dumb. Oh, this guy, he doesn't have any questions. He doesn't think. That's what people say. He just accepts whatever is told. Does someone have any question? I think someone's microphone is on. Okay. And then the second thing is, in doubt, there is another point. It's doubting is fine, but when the information is coming from the proper source, we should not doubt it. So doubting is not always helpful. It's helpful when you're trying to analyze it and you don't understand something, you can doubt it and ask questions. But when the proper information is being received, you cannot doubt. Like in Bhagavad Gita, the words of the Lord cannot be doubted. We cannot say, oh, maybe, Krishna is under some impression, that's why he might have said this, it may not be true. So that kind of doubt is not intelligence. And the second thing is misapprehension. When we are trying to understand something, we may first understand something that is not true. Like the example Prabhupada gives is when we are trying to understand we are not this body, we may try to first analyze that, okay, I'm not this hand, I'm not this leg, I'm not any part of my body. So that one. And even when we are trying to gauge something, initially we may false identify. And with that, we know that this is not that, this is wrong. And then the next step is correct apprehension. After that, we understand it properly. So when the false identification is detected, then the real identification can be understood. Then we can be strongly rooted in the experimental knowledge. And the next thing is memory. So I used to think this memory is a function of mind. Memory is a function of the brain all the time. But when I read this, I understood that memory is a function of the intelligence. If someone can remember a lot, that means they are intelligent too. I used to equate intelligence to logic only, not memory, but memory also is intelligence. And swapa means sleep. Sleep is also necessary to keep the intelligence in working order. It's part of intelligence. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. So we need to also understand how to use the intelligence. Intelligence is the discriminating power to understand an object. It is what helps the senses to make the choices. So senses have many choices to make. Mind or even the five senses, we have many choices to make. And who tells what kind of choice to choose? The intelligence tells. That's why it's supposed to be the master of all the senses. And perfection of intelligence is when we become fixed in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That's when all the senses are controlled. That's when we don't have any bondage. That's when we don't, the senses will not be doing things that will cause karma. So that is the proper use of intelligence. That is the perfection of intelligence. When we can use that to control the senses to make proper choices. So this is about intelligence. Prabhupada also uses this word buddhi in the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. So buddhi is a very important word. Even in second chapter, he uses how to be situated properly in buddhi yoga. So in the Chatushloki, the first verse, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. So buddha means the learned. So I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me, the wise who know perfectly this particular fact, they engage in my devotional service. So the word here that is used for wise is Buddha. This comes from the Buddh dhatu. So Buddh means to know. Buddha means someone who knows, someone who's learned. And then the next one, I think the kids here, they're learning 108 shlokas, right? If anyone wants to say it, they're welcome to. Chapter 10, verse 9. If they have memorized it, they can recite it. Adults or kids, anybody is fine. It starts with Machitta. Someone wanted to say it, but I think it got cut or something.
Achittamagata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam mam bhaktya tusyanti te ramanti te.
Yeah, very
Right,
nice.
Mataji?
Yeah, thank you. So in this, the word that relates to buddhi is bodhayanta. So this is causative, means it is causing others to know. It's preaching. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So they preach each other about Krishna. They let each other know about Krishna. They cause each other to become wise by discussing about the Lord. And they derive great satisfaction from this. So anything related to intelligence, just like anything related to mode of goodness, Krishna kind of eventually takes it to transcendence. Sometimes he even equates it to transcendence, being in the mode of goodness. Similarly, buddhi is related to realizing Krishna. Buddhi is related to talking about Krishna. Uh, Most of the times he uses buddhi yoga or buddhi in terms of our transcendental intelligence. And then verse 10, anybody wants to say Tesham Satata?
Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धिं योगं च येन मामुपयन्ति ते.
Thank you, Mataji. So in this also there is buddhi. So to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So here buddhi is again equated to understanding. So we have discussed about what is real buddhi. And here Krishna is giving us the process by which we can come to that kind of understanding. We have to be constantly devoted to serving him with love, not out of grudge, not out of fear, but out of love. Then that understanding will come. Krishna will give that to us. In the 11th verse, the last one in the Chatushloki. Anyone wants to recite?
तेषामेवानुकम्पार्थम् अहम् अज्ञानजं तमा नाशयामि आत्मभावस्तो ज्ञानदीपेन भास्वता.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. So to show the respect, I dwelling in their hearts destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So if we have any ignorance in our heart, Krishna himself will destroy it. After we constantly serve him with devotion and love, he shows special mercy. He shows special mercy to destroy with the lamp of knowledge this darkness born of ignorance. So, ignorance is what creates this darkness. Ignorance is what makes us see things in a wrong way. It makes us think what is wrong as right and what is right as wrong. And Krishna is the one who can destroy such ignorance with the lamp of knowledge. So that's all I have. We can open up for questions or comments. I see that, sorry Mataji. I
No,
see
go
that
ahead.
Pyari Mohan Prabhu and Jiva Mataji are here. Mataji and Prabhu, would you like to make some comments or questions?
They may be busy also.
Okay. Someone else had some question. Please go
No,
ahead.
I was going to ask that doubt. So doubt is a sign of intelligence. Sometimes you think that doubt is. I mean, I kind of get it, and you also explained it that doubting Krishna himself is not good, but
Mm.
doubting and asking questions, like Srila Prabhupada never expected people to just accept anything blindly. You know, he actually liked when his disciples asked him questions.
Mhm.
But what is the good doubt? Can you explain that a little more?
Like if there is a principle, one should tolerate. Okay, then you'll ask, how can I tolerate? I'm feeling very discouraged by tolerating. There can be many things, many intricacies in following a principle, and for that you may have questions. So you ask those doubts. It's not like you just completely shut off your intelligence and just blindly try to follow um, without any questions. For example, in Christianity, asking questions is not recommended at all. They think you are doubting the scriptures. You cannot ask any question at all in some churches. So
Mm-hmm.
that's not what is intelligence. That's not what is encouraged. Blind faith is not encouraged.
Mm-hmm. And the bad kind of doubt can be when someone is very distressed, that, extremely distressed, they might start doubting and their faith,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is reasonable for a neophyte devotee. Like their faith, the neophyte devotees, their faith can be easily shaken. So one has to come to the platform of Nishtha where their faith will not be shaken. They're completely fixed up. So this is a process which one has to go through. Adav Shraddha, Sangha Bhajana, Anartha Nivritti, and Nishtha. So in between, if someone is put to some severe tests, one may doubt, one may question the existence of Krishna or the validity of the process. That is reasonable for a person who's not completely fixed. But there is nothing wrong in expressing it and understanding how one needs to interpret the current situation.
Mm-hmm. The more advanced a devotee, the more they feel that anything that's happening in this material world is something to be accepted. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Not out of sentiment, but out of experience, out of the strength of devotional service,
Mm-hmm.
out of all those, their faith for Krishna will increase because they have been serving Krishna for so long, and they probably might have experienced the hand of Krishna in different things, and they might have understood how various situations will be given by Krishna for us to learn certain things, for us to understand certain principles. So that's what gives them the faith. And of course, the purity that will result after chanting the holy name for so long. All those things will play a role in taking a person towards Nishtha.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much for the wonderful class. Geeta Mala, you asked, you were asking about the questions, how. So just to add to that point, in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.6, 7, 8. So these three verses of Srimad Bhagavatam explains the quality of speaker, and one couple of words like the speaker should be freed anagha, that is freed from all vices, and akhyatani, so he should be he should be very experienced also, and that way qualities of speaker is mentioned. Similarly, the question, a person when he is asking a question or clearing his doubt, because the attitude of that person should be like Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj has this ability of forgiveness and gratitude towards his Guru Maharaj. So forgiveness, it is mentioned as like Parikshit Maharaj was a king, and a small Brahmana boy cursed him. So he could have finished the entire Brahmana race, as he had that much power as a king. But he forgive everyone, and then he sat and took shelter of Shukdev Goswami. So Parikshit Maharaj also asked questions and clarified all his doubt, but the doubt clearing should be done in a proper mood.
Yeah, not in a challenging
Not
way.
in
Yeah.
a challenging mode.
Yeah.
So that we can learn from Srimad Bhagavatam example of Parikshit Maharaj. So these verses, Mataji, they explain very nicely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really nice that Parikshit Maharaj accepted the curse of the foolish boy Shringi. He did not challenge that. And that's amazing that he just took that as Krishna's.
Krishna.
Yeah, grace upon him. Yeah.
Prabhu, forgiveness and the doubt, how did you relate that? I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
So the questions, doubt means clarifying the questions. That I took it as that way, Mataji. And so the example from Parikshit Maharaj is that the Parikshit Maharaj, he has this ability. He, as a king, when as a student also, if you are powerful or if you are intelligent, then also the clearing of doubt should be done in the attitude or mood of Parikshit Maharaj.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so that way I was trying to relate, Mataji.
Yeah, I understand that. That Vidhi Pranipatena also speaks to that. But forgiveness is what I didn't understand. How forgiveness is related to asking questions.
Yeah, as forgiveness, I was explaining the Parikshit Maharaj's mood, Mataji. So that is
Mood of
directly
humility, I think
humility.
he was
Like submissive
yeah,
inquiry,
Yeah.
yeah.
submission.
If,
How
though
he
if
submitted
there
himself.
are any offenses that happen to you, you should try to take it in Parikshit Maharaj's mode.
Means during the time of instruction.
During the time of instruction,
So are you saying, Sundar Gopinath Prabhu, that
during the, let me,
Parikshit Maharaj did not question like, why did this happen to me or something, anything like
yeah,
that, right? Yeah.
like, if we read this Bhagavatam, Mataji, so the way it progresses is very nice, in a very systematic way it is progressing. So when Parikshit Maharaj was in a desperate situation, and though he had this power, he was very powerful king also. So, but still he took that humble role and he forgive. So whenever we are also asking any questions, so those we can follow the attitude of Parikshit Maharaj. That's what I wanted to communicate.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
But I have another question.
Yes, Mataji.
So, I mean, accepting whatever is happening, I know that's Nishta, but sometimes there are some severe distresses that people go through, like, a child dies or something, like, that kind of distresses. You can't just tell them like, oh, this is, meant to be or something like that. How do you deal with such, even though if you just take it purely from a philosophical perspective, that can be understood, but not everybody is that, how do you work with, how does a devotee work with another person who's going through such distresses?
Yes, Mataji. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, it has every psychological situation that we may ever encounter in our life. So, when you were saying it, I remembered that Dhruva Maharaj, when he was
Mhm,
visited by his father, he goes to the forest, and when he was walking in the forest, he meets Narada Muni. So
mhm,
Muni, initially, he gives him an advice. It's just your father. He said something. Just don't mind so much. This is not the age to perform austerities. Go back home and play. This is not the age
mhm,
for you to take things so seriously. So at that time, Dhruva Maharaj says this that the Muni, whatever instruction you are giving, it's good, it's right. But right now I am afflicted with pain. I'm sorry, I won't be able to take that instruction. I want to pursue this path. I want to get what I want. Please help me with this. I won't be able
mhm,
to take your other instruction. Sometimes when people are in a lot of pain, they won't be able to take philosophy.
mhm.
You cannot just, maybe we can do some kirtan with them, maybe we can chant with them, but we cannot tell your child is not his body, he's somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
We cannot say that. I had one of my friends, she had twins,
Mhm,
and both of them, they used to take care of one child each, and one of the children, they had some issue with the heart, and then They got him operated, and then he passed away after that. When he was like 5 or something, they had this done, and he passed away. And then whenever I used to talk to her, she used to cry for like an hour, like
Mhm.
for the whole hour she'll remember everything, and
Mhm.
no philosophy can really heal.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
is chant, but she could not hear all the philosophy or anything. So there are certain things that we can do at certain times. And Krishna consciousness has so much variety that there will be something that any person would like to do at.
Yeah. Yeah. So just giving them some soothing kirtan or something is better than
Yes.
trying to push philosophy at that time, right?
Yeah, it can be quite offensive to them also.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And Mataji, even before maybe the last moment, sometime uh, maybe someone knows that death is coming, maybe for whatever reason, then it is also hard to tell philosophy to that person or their relatives at that moment too. So, and even I have seen even in ISKCON, even when Srila Prabhupada, right, devotees just chanting,
Mhm.
and that is a great service actually. I mean, I think that we should do even when we are nearby, even non-devotee even. So at least we can chant.
That's the greatest service, yes. As somebody is passing, Um, but at the same time, I know of devotees. I mean, I read it in, I don't know if it was in Dandavats or Back to Godhead. I can't remember. There was this devotee mother who was losing her infant child, in NICU, in the NICU, neonatal ICU, and she actually was constantly chanting to her child, and even when she had to leave,
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
nurses saw so much of her faith. Even the nurses started chanting to the child. That
Mm.
the child was constantly hearing, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So she was really trying to send her infant back to Godhead. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
there are such mothers too.
Mhm.
My god sister Ragatmika. She told me that she was having a hard time to chant, because it was her baby. And so she asked the nurses, please chant for him.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Jiva. What was her name?
Ragatmika.
Oh, Ragat. Yeah, I'd read about her somewhere. I don't remember where.
They were very touched by
I
her.
just remember this one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she was. The nurses were so touched that they started chanting for the baby.
Yeah, it was very difficult for her herself.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
But
They
she was. But she was. Determined to send her child back to Godhead if it was
Yeah.
going to go.
Yes,
Yeah.
very stalwart devotee,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful devotee.
As this topic has come up, I would like to add one point here. Um, I mean, one thing that helps in this difficult situation, Gitamala Mataji and Devaki Mataji. So I personally, like in my personal experience, friends, like few good friends, if you have, they are the one who really helps you. Like if they are a devotee, that is nothing like that. So they will, I mean, philosophy is one thing, but philosophy should also be used at the right time and at the right place. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, if you are in you have read Bhagavad Gita and hear great Srila Prabhupada and other Maharajas. So then philosophy we understand, but sometimes we don't need philosophy. We just need little bit of care, and you a
Mm-hmm.
shoulder whom you can
Yeah.
you can cry on that shoulder. So
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes you don't directly tell them philosophy, but rather than just wait for the time, let them, just give your shoulder more than philosophy. So once there is an appropriate time, then you can introduce philosophy. So
Yeah, once
that,
you build the trust and love, then they're
yes,
willing to
Mataji.
listen to you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like friends, they really help you out in a difficult situation. So at least you should have some shoulder whom you can cry out.
Well, Srila Prabhupada wasn't just pushing philosophy on his early
I
disciples.
agree, Mataji.
He
That's true.
cared and loved for them so much that they felt his care and love, that they were willing to listen and do anything for him.
Right, Mataji. Once that trust is built and that love, that bond is created, then there is nothing like that.
And they see it's genuine,
Yeah. So, I mean, you are like very far away, still just one phone call from them will, you will wait for that call. Thank you, Mataji, for bringing this question, and thank you, Mataji, for answering such a wonderful way. Thanks.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, because you brought up Srila Prabhupada's love and care, we were talking to Pyare Prabhu the other day, and he was also saying how everybody, all the disciples knew how genuinely Srila Prabhupada cared for their advancement, for their well-being. So even if sometimes Prabhupada chastised or corrected or instructed, they did not mind because they knew very well that he only wants their welfare. So that's the kind of instruction that anybody would be willing to take. So that's why Srimad Bhagavatam says for the welfare of all in the first few verses itself. So that should be the guiding principle whenever we do anything. Are we doing it for the welfare of all or some selfish motives? So that's how our own character, and that's how we can preach to others by internally desiring the welfare of everybody. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. If no other questions, it's almost 8 o'clock, so we'll stop here. Thank you so much for all of your association. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Anantakoti Vaishnavandaki.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Man.